Right, so welcome to episode 3 of the Coach Gravina podcast. We're joined here with Rob Grieve. How are you, Rob?
Good, mate.
It's good, yeah. So we had this recorded, but Rob's got pretty bad sound and audio, and he couldn't afford a proper mic, so we had to redo it again. But Rob's it's
not on your level yet, mate. Okay, you should have. If you were really a big bully, you would have shipped up a mic here and adequate audio equipment. So that's your bad.
Yeah, I'll cop it. I'll take it. But Rob's at the moment. Firstly, congratulations. You've just been assigned the NBL 1 women's coach, the head coach up in Mackay. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the season.
So now as well, you're player, coach, and development manager in Mackay. Speak a bit about that and your role with that now as well with the NBL 1 head coach role.
Well, pretty much every NBL 1 head coach is doing it on a casual basis. So, I mean, there is a lot involved in it, but everyone has to juggle a full-time job as well as that. My job here involves doing a lot of work with our high performance athletes. So I'll be doing roughly 12 hours a week in high performance. I do roughly 10 hours a week in our academy, development academy. I'll also do stuff with beginners, do stuff at schools, trying to grow the game, organize all sorts of things like gala days where kids come and play basketball tournaments during a school day. And it's a lot of different things. There's also the junior rep that I have to coordinate, and a lot of different hats, work with a lot of different people. It's definitely a challenge that keeps me busy.
Yeah, because you've done quite a bit, and from your last 10 years, you've essentially already achieved the goal of your past, which I wanted to bring up, in being an assistant coach at a college in the US, and it was NCAA Division 2, I believe, for 3 years, and then 1 year at a video coordinator. Correct me if was that correct in that?
That's correct. Yeah, I was 1 year at Marshall as a video coordinator with the women's basketball program, and then 3 years at Arkansas Tech as an assistant coach. And at the Division 1 level, you'll have a head coach, 3 assistants, a director of operations, and then a video coordinator. So I was very much at the bottom of the totem pole. At the Division 2 level, schools don't have the budget to hire multiple assistants. So it was just the head coach, the assistant coach, and then a student manager. So the good thing about Division 2 is you get to wear, once again, a lot of different hats, a lot of responsibilities, you get to experience a lot of things involved in that coaching at that highest level.
In saying that, when you went up there, because you're a guy from Australia, I'm assuming it's a different culture up there. How did you go about going, straight in the deep end and being around people you didn't know, fitting in, and being yourself in that?
I think that's 100% what you hit the nail on the head. You can't go over there and be a phony. You have to be yourself. That's the number one key. Go over there, be yourself, and then don't force the relationships, because obviously you have relationships with coaches, relationships with players, relationships with your peers. Don't force the relationships. Let them evolve, and be yourself. And if you do those two things, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of guys, girls going to go over, especially as players as well. How about some advice for players going over in terms of their game, and once they've traveled over, not being caught in changing their game too much to what their good skills are and fitting into a team?
Yeah, well, if you've got recruited by a college coach, they know what they're getting more often than not. And what you bring to the table is what they want from you. They're not going to expect somebody who's a slasher, maybe they're an athletic bull and just gets on the rim, and they're not expecting you to come in there and splash threes.
Mm.
They know what you are based on tape. They've had discussions with you, likely had discussions with your coaches and stuff like that. All you got to do is whatever they see you as, go in and bring that to the table. The one advice I'd have for young players trying to play college basketball is college basketball is 10 times more physical. You know, in America, kids in high school from year 7 through to year 12, they're lifting weights. Now, obviously, year 7, they're probably not lifting heavy. They maybe just be lifting the bar, maybe doing a lot of body weight exercises. But that's the big difference. You know, I would have played basketball year 7 through 12 and not touched a weight in my life. And
you still haven't,
I guess, mate. Don't even start on that one. Okay. So yeah, that's the reality, and they're better off getting their body in the best physical shape before they go over there, and get acclimatized to playing an extremely physical brand of basketball. So if you're a female athlete, I'd encourage you playing with a lot of males. If you're a male athlete, go play against guys a lot older with more experience that can push you around and body you a bit. That'll give you the problem-solving techniques you need to be successful from day one in college.
That's huge. What you were saying about getting your body right, and I feel like it's sort of being touched on more now in terms of, you know, being ready for college and being ready for seniors and doing strength and conditioning. How important do you think that is, and at what age do you think that should be implemented for a basketball athlete?
Ultimately, it's whenever they're ready. You know what I mean? If they want to be a high-performing athlete, then it's probably after you hit puberty. You know, make sure you've got your core strong, make sure you're ready to go, and you have safe techniques. Like, there's no hesitation on spending money when it comes to learning strength and conditioning, safe practices. And there's guys all around the country that put their hand up and you know, offer a service. Maybe you get introduced to it on a one-on-one basis. Maybe it's small groups. Maybe it's even through your clubs. But ultimately, yeah, you can't put a price on getting learning the techniques from a trained professional. Once you've done that, once your body's right and it's ready to go, attacking it with everything you got. Don't go to a weight session and then just be taking it easy, you know? Like, you don't go to basketball training and muck around and just waste everybody's time. If you're going to be pushing yourself, make every session count. And yeah, it's ultimately whenever the individual's comfortable to start pursuing that sort of thing.
Yeah, a lot of it goes back to how bad you want it as well, and effort. You know, are you willing to take that next step to do it even by yourself? And one thing I really want to touch on, and I was saying it to one of the players I coach individually, is being your own coach after the session. So for example, if I've coached someone or yourself, take what you've learned and apply it yourself, and being able to construct it yourself. Speak a bit about players going into sessions with the right mindset and then taking on that feedback and applying it themselves. Do you think it's being done at a high level? And with that, what do you look for in a player when you're coaching them one-on-one? Let's say it's the first time you coaching them. What are the things you're looking at for you to, you know, want to coach them later on down the track?
Yeah, so if I'm watching a player, I want to see that they're a competitor. If they hate to lose and they're going to do whatever it takes to win. So that's first and foremost. Second, I want to see that they're a coachable athlete. You know, they have a good attitude, they're positive, they're respectful, they try their hardest, they always give maximum effort, maximum concentration. If you've got those two things, you're halfway there. Then when it comes down to it, I think you can easily separate yourself these days and be in the 1% if you have a good relationship with feedback. And so your feedback can be positive, it can be negative. If you have a good relationship with it, you can turn any of that feedback into results. Okay, so maybe somebody says, hey man, your left hand is weak. Well, don't go home crying to mum and say, hey, coach made fun of my left hand. No, go fix it. Okay. So ultimately, it's about having a good relationship with feedback, having an extremely optimistic mindset. If you have that mindset, instead of it thinking, oh, I have to go to training, flip that and think, oh, I get to go to training. I get to go and work on my craft and develop my game. So ultimately, yeah, if you bring that competitive spirit, you're coachable, you have a good relationship with feedback, and you want to be special, then go make it happen for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And it's what would you say to because I know it's hard to take on sometimes, and I want to speak about your coaching philosophy, and I've gotten to see it in a training aspect as a team and individually. How would you say you see yourself as a coach and your philosophy in general?
Yeah, I probably have a little bit of an unorthodox method. I like to constantly shift the goalposts. So ultimately, if somebody's getting good at something, I want to make it harder, and then constantly add another layer and another layer and another layer, so that when the player leaves practice, they kind of feel like they're a little bit overwhelmed. And the rationale behind that is your growth comes from discomfort. So if they're getting out of their comfort zone and they're feeling like their brain's overloaded and they're thinking 100 things and they can't really, the game doesn't feel slow or natural or easy to them, we're stimulating growth. And ultimately, yeah, some players, you can do something as something really small to make the drill harder. Some of the really special players, you have to get extremely creative to make the drill harder. And those are the ones that it's really fun to work with, where it's like, oh, wow, I can't, like that. The really special athletes, it might be one or two or three times that I was able to really get them out of their comfort zone because they're so comfortable and have such high skill level and able to pick things up so quickly.
With that, tell us, well, I know a bit about your background, but, tell everyone about your background as a coach and more your accomplishments and achievements, right from under 12s, under 14s.
Well, I always felt like I was meant to be a coach. I was a decent player, but completely unathletic, a bit soft. Had some skill, had some IQ, but I was probably always destined to be a coach rather than a player. I think it was my mum was one of my first head coaches, and after an under 10 season, she said, "Oh, I can't coach you anymore, and because you already know more than me." And so I was in under 10 stage. It's like, okay, cool. And so after that, I started coaching a lot of my sister's teams. I have an older sister. I never coached her teams, but I coached my two younger sisters' club teams. Also coached some junior boys teams, and I only did it as a hobby just because I found it interesting. And I felt like it was a good way to grow my voice and grow my leadership qualities. Then once I finished playing junior rep, I got an opportunity to start working with some under 18 girls teams at Diamond Valley. So I was coaching a Diamond Valley rep program for, I think, 4 years. And then after that, I made the jump. So I would have been 21 and I was assisting Gary Fox, who's still an active mentor to this day. Gary is a guy that, coached, was an assistant coach for the Opals. He's won world championship medals, Olympic medals, and even won junior world championships as head coach with the Gems or the Sapphires. I can't really remember which one it was. But yeah, so he's done it all, very experienced, not just as a women's coach, he coached men. He was also a high-level referee. So yeah, I got to learn a ton from him. And it was that season I thought, I want to be a professional coach. So at that point, everything in my power I was doing towards trying to get to America to coach college basketball. After about 4 or 5 years coaching at Bulleen, I got over to the States, and after 4 years there, I came back to Australia looking to get back into grassroots basketball and be a part of a community. Now, the one thing I did leave out in that whole conversation was the 1 week that I got to coach you as part of the Youth League men's program. And for all the listeners, okay, so Seagrav was just a flamethrower and didn't play any defense and didn't really pass the ball all that much either, but was a lightning rod of a scorer. And I wanted him to play in our team as a flamethrower off the bench. And I said, okay, here's the deal. You can come in, and if you make your first shot, I'm going to call your number straight away. If you make your first shot, I'm going to keep running, calling your number till you miss. I said, but if you miss, I'll give you one more play back to back. And if you miss that as well, I'm pulling you, because you were a player that was like a microwave. You're either on or you're off, and you heat up super quick. And yeah, you lasted one practice game, and
you scared me off.
I don't think I scared you off, man.
I heard you yelling, "Get back on defense!" Yeah, I remember it good at Templestowe College. But yeah, I was gonna say you left out your ripper 1 week with me, you know, scoring off the bench. But it's
well, I got around to it. I knew I was going to get around to it at some stage.
But yeah, so how about, what's your greatest achievement from that? You know, you can say coaching me for the week, but you know, from because I know
ultimately, like when you win championships and stuff, like the medals I don't really care about the medals, to be honest, like and trophies. And I almost feel like it's a bit awkward when you get results. The best memories are the ones you make with the teams, you know, like the away from the court memories. I remember one time I coached a team and they made a video at the end of the season, and they made a video and was recreating key moments from throughout the year, and it was just hilarious, you know, so silly things like that. Even you know, challenges we had with players over the years. A lot of juniors would want to try and challenge to beat me in one-on-one, and they never would win. Okay, but we'd always put a price on the line, and there was a number of punishments throughout the journey that were a bit embarrassing, but it was all in good fun. So those are the memories, the relationships you build with the players, the parents, and your coaching peers. Ultimately, that's where the most joy comes from.
100%, and it's bigger than the game. I think take it for granted sometimes, you know, as much as we're out there. But I look at it, even myself at 22, you know, how many friends I've made from under 12s onwards, even below, and you know, still being in contact with players, coaches, you know, parents, that sort of thing. And I feel like I did realize it earlier, and you know, I think it doesn't need to be taken for granted of how many people you can meet, those connections, and you know, being best mates with people are still met from sport, not just basketball in general.
Well, the other thing I'll say, and this harks back on a question you asked earlier about preparing for college. So in Australian basketball, pretty much if you want to play, you get to play. You get to play club games. You know, most rep programs might have 5 to 6 teams, especially in Melbourne. So if you've got a passion, even if you're no good, you can still play. I mean, which is great. The difference in America is if you're no good, you're playing in the playground, okay? Because if you don't make your school team, you're probably not playing for 9 months of the year. Then you can pay to play and join an AAU circuit and play over 3 months. But that's, if you're not making your high school team and you're only playing AAU, you're probably not learning a well-rounded foundation of skills and stuff like that. So ultimately, that's one thing that Australians really have going for them is the ability to play year-round, the ability to play multiple teams, build multiple friendship groups, and have multiple different roles. Maybe in your club team, you're the star player. Maybe in your rep team, you're a 3-and-D type player. You know, maybe in a state team, you're literally a bench warmer that just cheers your teammates along. So the great opportunity you have in Australian junior basketball is getting to wear different hats, getting to make memories and friendships with a cross section of people. And I think that's something we can really take for granted as well. Now, on the same token, Okay, I know that was a long-winded answer. When you play in Australia, pretty much you're going to play, because if you might not play much in a youth league game, but then you get to play a lot in your under 18s. Well, you might go from Australian basketball where at least once a week you're going to play a lot of minutes in one of your games. Then you go to a college environment and you don't play in the intramurals. You're like your social basketball. You don't play in those leagues.
Yeah.
So you're training 6 days a week. You'll have 1 day off each week, but you're training 6 days a week for probably a minimum of 2 hours. And then you're not even guaranteed to set foot on the court in the games. Yeah. And so it's really easy nowadays for people to go to the States and, play college. And then when everything's not handed to them and they're not getting X amount of minutes, or they're not starting, or not getting enough shot opportunities, it's easy to pack up and transfer. Okay. Yeah. But that's what's happening a lot these days. But it's really important to make a good choice of what college you're going to go to, and then stick it out and really work away at your craft. And if you're a bench warmer, we'll work your way up to be a bench player that actually contributes off the bench. Then work your way up to trying to be a sixth man. Work your way up to being a role player in the starting unit, and always have that growth mindset. Wherever you are currently, find opportunities to grow. Don't get down on yourself. Don't be negative. Don't talk smack about the coach. Just put your head down, get to work, and make it happen for yourself. And ultimately, that's another thing that's really important that I touched on earlier, was the mindset, making sure you've got the right attitude and you're taking care of your business on the court. Yeah,
I think it's spot on again. And you mentioned the same thing that Owen spoke about last episode on the podcast. And he was saying as a player about his mindset and putting his head down and, not getting distracted and going to work, and not settling and being complacent from where you are. And I think that's something that's huge in saying that, you've made the achievement, you've made, let's say the 14-1s, 12-1s, 16s, 18s, whatever, you made the state team. But if you're looking to play college, that really doesn't mean anything. It's an awesome achievement, it's really good, but over there, and I got to play AAU over there in July, I think 2019 with AUSA, and me being, at that time, a top under 18s player, I'd say top 20-ish, top 30, going over there, I'm just some random guy, some guy who could just shoot, and they're just looking at me like, who's this guy? He can't dunk, he's not crazy athletic. You're just another guy. So I think you completely agree with what you were saying about being complacent.
And there's so many examples of guys that are, starting point guards on state teams as they're coming up through the ranks, and everyone's like, oh, so-and-so is so good, they're amazing. Yeah. Oh, wow. And then they go to college and they don't even play. And it's because they've never faced that adversity in a junior setting, you know what I mean? So it's a real difficult challenge for them to learn how to cope with limited opportunities and a smaller role. So sometimes for those kids that are coming up through the ranks, missing out on a state team can be a blessing, missing out on a first rep team can be a blessing, because you're facing adversity in your formative years, and then you're getting a chance to bounce back from it or persevere and fight your way through. And eventually, if enough setbacks happen and you keep persevering, then once you get to a college environment, you've been through that hard knock battle, and you're well positioned to find a way to be successful.
Yeah, well, in saying that, where do you see the game sort of going? Because you've seen it. Hold on, Rob. Hold on. you've seen it at all levels, pretty much. You've seen it at a junior, senior, college, now NBL 1. And have you been over to see the NBA in person as well? Yeah. So from that, how do you see the game evolving? And I've gotten a setup. I've done my research. In the NBA, 1998 to 1999, the average three-point attempts was 18.8, and currently this season it's 35.6 attempts per game. And I tried looking up the WNBA as well, but I couldn't find it. Let's say from a three-point perspective, where do you see the game going, and at other angles of the game?
Yeah, so let me go back because I was going to tell you a good story. So when I was 21, I was working with Gary Fox, and back then, no one played switching defense. No one switched anything. It was all about positional expertise. So you might have a shooter, you know what I mean? Steve Novak rings a bell. Jason Capono, guys in the NBA that couldn't really defend. He couldn't do anything but shoot a three. Back then, specialization of skills was relevant. And I remember Gary telling me, he goes, oh, this is where the game, you always got to think what's next for the game. And he said, the game is trending towards having 5 guys that are 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", all in that wheelhouse, and all of them can shoot, pass, dribble, and all of them can defend all 5 positions. So you just switch everything. Well, fast forward 4 to 5 years, the Warriors won their first championship playing that exact brand of basketball. Now, you know, Steph Curry wasn't 6'6", obviously, but he's 6'3". That's a tall point guard. And then you had Klay Thompson, 6'7", Iguodala, 6'8", maybe 6'6", I don't know. But the positional versatility of guys like Draymond Green, they had what they called a death lineup where Draymond Green would come in and play as the 5, and they'd be able to switch everything. And that was critical in them winning the championship. Not only that, everyone else in the league started switching. It's a copycat league. Everyone else started shooting more and more threes. So the way I see it is that the threes, we obviously see the trend already with a lot of high-level shooters shooting from further and further out. I think that's going to continue. I wouldn't be surprised if they implement a 4-point line within the next few years. I also wouldn't be surprised if they widen the court at the professional level, maybe FIBA, maybe NBA, NBL. They might even widen the court so that the spacing becomes harder for your defensive rotations. And it might lead to more dunks, more playmaking ability, because it's almost got to the point where the defense is so good that's why teams are jacking up threes so quickly early in transition, because you know, they might not get a better look than that at later stages. So yeah, I definitely think that the value of shooting is the greatest separator in the game. If you can shoot, you're valuable. If you can't shoot, you're a liability. And ultimately, the ability to create and draw 2 players. If you have that gravity, and you see Steph Curry play these days, sometimes you'll have 3 or 4 players hanging off him, okay? If you have the gravity where you can draw 2 players and then make the correct decision and find the open player, then you're valuable again, okay? But if you've got that mindset, you're going to draw 3 players and jack an off-balance shot, that's, once again, you're probably a liability, okay? Because teams would love for you to do that every time down the floor. That
4-point line, if that happens, we heard it here first. I'll be replaying the clip.
All right, don't hold me to
it. But yeah, no, the game's definitely it's changing. Like, you know, I saw Jonas Valanciunas, was it yesterday or the day before, 7 from 9 from 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think prior to that I saw him attempt many or make many consistently, but.
Well, even Brook Lopez for the Bucks, he was a guy that never really hit many threes early in his career, and now he's one of the most prolific 3-point shooters in the NBA.
Yeah, that was huge. Yeah, and then he's got the license to shoot 8, 9 plus a game. It's from being a guy who's just inside shooting, you know, hooks and those sort of things. It's crazy.
And for kids that are trying to make it at the next level, they need to take solace in the fact that there might be some unicorns. I mean, Porzingis is crazy, Greek freak, crazy athletic specimens. But I mean, Trey Young, his elite skill set is shooting. Shooting has opened up everything for him. You know, he has shooting, you get people up in the air, he's quite slippery. But yeah, you don't need to be in that 1% of athletic freaks if you have, you know, an elite skill, which is shooting. So if they want to really make it and get to the highest level that they could possibly get to, working on that jump shot's the number one most important thing.
How do you go about teaching kids in regards to, players in regards to footwork? Now, what I mean is, because I know we all think footwork is quite important, and it is. When a player is being taught a certain footwork and they can't grasp it straight away, and they're not understanding the use of it, how do you go about teaching them, and especially if they think it's not valuable or it's not in use? Let's say, for example, you know, like it's standard to teach the left, right, right, left, but like a hop sort of catch instead, and they're saying, well, why would I use that and go against it? How do you sort of go about teaching that? Do you show them footage of other players using it? Are you someone who just explains it, or do you just say, just do it? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, well, when it comes to teaching footwork on shooting, I really like Tom. He used to talk about foul shot feet, shoot with foul shot feet. And I think that's a really great principle. Like how you would line your feet up to shoot at a free throw is how you should be shooting every jump shot. So I always communicate to players, always foul shot feet, ready to shoot when you get the ball. Now, when it comes to teaching footwork on finishing moves or on dribble moves or even moves off the pivot, ultimately, I think repetition is huge. Okay, so for example, that first step, getting that ball down early enough without traveling, and kids won't realize they're traveling, but then you make a game of it, you know. So instead of it being, just get that ball down on your first step, just do it like 10 in a row and do it to a rhythm. So everybody's going first dribble down, first step, first dribble down, first step. And ultimately get that repetition and say, hey, that's what I want it to look like every single time. Then if you're trying to teach, you know, like a dribble move or something, and I think there's ways to break down each move. You know, if you're teaching an onside move, it's first getting that manipulation of the ball right, you know, like doing that onside move with the basketball itself, and then adding that jab step in where you're faking the move the opposite way. And then ultimately building up. So layering that teaching, do it step by step until they're able to put the whole thing together. Obviously, watching film on players and doing stuff like that, that's another great way to learn. Sometimes I might be doing something in a training session, and then you come across something on Instagram or Twitter, and it's exactly what you were working on that day. And then showing the athletes, hey, this is what it should look like. Oh, this is why I want you to stay wide. Okay, this is how you decelerate, you know, and getting all those little things right. The one thing I'm very much a proponent of is if somebody's struggling, even if they're already struggling, maybe push that goalpost a little bit further away and get them to do the next thing. And they're probably going to fail at that too, and that's okay. But if you challenge them to the next level, the next training session, when they come back and they go to the easier level, that might be the stimulus that converts them and they figure out how to do something.
Yeah, and that's different to most. Would you say that that's a different way of going about it than most coaches? Like, I know myself, I trial and error it. You know, sometimes I just try and, okay, don't go to the next level. But would you say you coach in a style that you have to go with how the best player is going in terms of a drill?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Like, so if I've got a group of, 10 players, I don't think it's right for me to coach to the number 10 player. I think the goal should be to always coach to the number one. Now, you can use common sense and maybe you separate players and do station work. Okay, maybe, if you have the time and the resources and the coaching staff to do that, then it would make sense to divide them based on current ability. But ultimately, I think it's the challenge is coach to your best player where they're at, and ultimately that'll drag people up. You know what I mean? Like so long as they have the right mindset, and sometimes a kid might feel like they're falling behind and struggling a lot, but just don't let them drop their head. You know, pick them up, challenge them, just say, hey, this is where growth is happening, keep going. And ultimately, I think it'd be about coaching to your best player and hoping that that drags everybody else up with them.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on a bit about Phil, and I won't keep you too long. I know the man's got to catch a flight, so I'll just touch on the last point about watching film and your thoughts on if players have access at the younger age groups all the way through to seniors. What are your thoughts on being able to watch film and go through that and analyze an individual's game? Because I spoke to Owen, and I was shocked that with his ability and his IQ that he hadn't really watched film before.
I mean, when you say watch film, are you saying watching their own game tape?
Yeah, well, your own game tape of your past games. Yeah,
so I've had players that love to watch their games back and watch what they could have done differently and stuff like that. I'm personally not a big proponent of that. I'd prefer to let the past be the past and move on and be in the next play. Usually, when you make a mistake in a game, you usually know, oh, I should have done this, or I should have passed. Oh, why did I try and shoot that? You know, like I wasn't shot ready. So you know in the moment when it happens. But I think if you are comfortable watching your tape from the past and trying to learn from it, all well and good, go for it. I've seen it be beneficial for a number of players. But if you just want to focus on the next play, I'm all good with that too. You know, don't dwell on the past. Don't think too far ahead in the future. Just be in the moment, next play mentality. And I think that's also a good way to go about it. But I will say, these days there's NBA on TV, you can watch games on YouTube, you can watch highlight packages on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want, TikTok, social media platforms. It's so accessible. So in this day and age, it's never been easier to be good than it is right now. So because you can get easy access to games, to footage, to coaches, there's online coaches on Instagram and stuff like that. It's never been easier to be good, but it's never been harder to be great, because what it takes to be great is that no quit mentality, to have a good relationship with feedback, to bounce back from setbacks, to give 110% effort every time you set foot on the court. So what it really takes, and even I'll say your concentration levels, social media these days is designed to give you that dopamine hit, and you get, I got a like, or I got a follow, this is awesome. And that's giving you instantaneous reward, and it's a reward for nothing. So ultimately, if you can be that guy that isn't spending 2 hours a night on social media, and when you get into the training, or 2 hours on Fortnite, if you can get in the gym and focus for 2 hours, then you're giving yourself to be in that 1% that has a chance to be great.
Hey, tell everyone the example about you being in the inner city to outer city when you had to travel for a school camp or
that's a good one. I forgot about that. So in my current role, I have to do a lot of school clinics in and around Mackay. And I sometimes go to schools that are 5 minutes from the basketball stadium, right in the inner city. And then I sometimes have to travel over an hour away to these country type schools where all the kids are farmers. So the further I go out, it's crazy, because some of the most advanced kids in the whole region are over an hour away. And I go and tell the teachers, I say, what's the secret? What is up with these kids? They're amazing. We had some group of kids doing 2-ball exercises where kids down here some of them might not even be able to catch a basketball. And they'd all say, oh, well, it's when they go home from school, they're parents put them to work on the farm, you know, and then they might be playing outdoors all the time in the yard. So they're active, they're not sitting in front of a TV or in front of a computer or glued to a phone.
Yeah.
And it's really like a superpower having that foundation to work off, where you can have great athleticism, have great concentration skills, and yeah, you just attack it with everything you got. Whereas a lot of kids, the closer to the city, like kids, it's really hard for them to concentrate. It's really hard for them to stay engaged. They might have an attention span of 5 minutes and then it's gone. Yeah. So yeah, that's that 1% ability is not being addicted to social media and all those things and playing video games for hours on end. That'll really set you up for making it in basketball if that's something you want to do. Yeah, because technology is developing so quick now. You know, schools are just given iPads, laptops, whatever. Here, do the work. You know, they might speak for 5 minutes and then here, you're all yours. And I feel like that's translating back to other activities outside of school, and it shows in the habits and the work ethic. You know, and there still might be hardworking kids, but like you said, it's the attention span. Are they able to listen for the full 15 minutes of an explanation, or 5 minutes or 2 minutes? Are they zoned out? Are their energy levels high? You know, and you can see a difference. I've had a couple scenarios with, you know, single kids on one-on-ones and seeing that, but you get to see it firsthand, and it's crazy to think the impact it's had. No doubt, man. That's it. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. So thanks again for jumping on. We'll have to chat soon, and hopefully you know, come down to Melbourne. I'll head up there. Yeah, sounds good, mate. Now make sure between now and next time we see you, get in the weight room, okay? Because you're looking a little bit skinny. All right. I was expecting big things from you, bro. Okay, you look like you're shrinking a little bit. The shoulders are shrunk. When you get to work. That's it. Thanks again, mate. Right, I'll speak to you. I'll see you, brother. See you, mate. All right.